Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Yusran Ramdhani, and today I'm going to review an article about forensic linguistics. The title is Forensic Linguistics Applying the Science of Law of Linguistics to Issue of the Law by Robert A. Leonard, Julian A. Erford, and Tanya Corley Christensen. And in this video I'm going to review the content of this article, the strengths and also the weaknesses, and also I'm going to put a link to download this article in the description below, and also a video that also examine on a case that use forensic linguistics to solve it. That also I'm going to review that in this article. Then let's jump to the introduction. The well-established science of linguistics analyzes all aspects of human language. Linguistics has many subfields, including the study of language structure, sounds, patterns, and the dynamic of language in interpersonal and intergroup communication, and the interplay of meaning, grammar, and context. So it's like phonology, morphology, and sociology, social linguistics, and like pragmatic semantics, like that you might find in academic departments, and it's often paired with other neighboring disciplines such as cognitive science, like psycholinguistics, and scientifically accepted principles of language analysis to legal evidence such as emails, text messages, contracts, letters, confession, and recorded speech. So those are like the example of it, of the evidence. And linguistics, as do other scientists, to explain the non-random distribution of data. Bullets do not randomly discharge from firearms. Chemicals concentrations do not randomly spread through a human body, and words are not randomly found to issue from the keyboards and mouths of speakers of English or any other language. In a legal system, language is key. Through language, we promulgate laws, issue subpoenas and warrants, question suspects, provide testimony, write contracts, and confess to crimes. And then in contract dispute, the meaning of individual words or phrases can form issue of contention. In plagiarism case, which are subset of authorship analysis, the question is whether the text or content was lifted by a defendant from an author's or company's documents onto another document without proper citation and passed off as the defendant's own. In copyright case, the linguistic issues can include not only straightforward borrowing of words, but also copied discourse structures such as topic sequencing. And also in this article focus on criminal cases, presenting 6 examples in which language is important evidence, each case highlighting a different aspect of forensic linguistic analysis. And then for example, there's like this authorship analysis case. Authorship case involve anonymous or pseudonymous documents, the authorship of which is questioned. Forensic linguists are retained as experts to compare questioned documents with documents of non-authorship known to have been produced by one or more suspects. The linguistic analysis aims to discern patterns indicating whether a hypothesis of common authorship may better explain the data than hypothesizing independent authorship. To investigate the data, linguists may examine features such as follows. So this is the features that linguists use to examine or investigate the data. It's the first one is dialect, and then underlying native language, then grammar, for example, like clause embedding, preposition usage, discourse markers, and then patterns of usage and errors in spelling, mechanics, and punctuation, and then management of narrative time structures of the parts and departures from the narrative sequence, then word choice, register type, like for example letter ransom note and detective novel maybe, and then the other is formality level, and the last one is peculiarities of style, and I think it's like parallel structures. Both qualitative and quantitative methods are used. Qualitative methods are largely inductive and proceed by identifying unusual features or features that reoccur within or between documents in a non-random fashion. And qualitative analyses are complemented by quantitative wherever relevant. Foreign patterns can be measured within the question and known documents themselves, and then compared to the distribution of similar features in comparable text corpora or database. Then let's jump to the Hummert stalker serial killer case. It's the case that I mentioned before that I'm going to review in this article, and also the one that I put the link below and on the description below. So, in a Commonwealth versus Hummert, two very different types of language patterns were identified that, through close linguistic analysis, propel investigation, and provide crucial evidence for the prosecution. Brian Hummert of York, Pennsylvania, had received letters written by an alleged stalker that threatened his wife, Charlene Hummert, and accused her of infidelity. She was later found strangled in her own vehicle in a parking lot. The police suspected Mr. Hummert and charged him with murder. While he was under security or being watched, at the press and the police received a letter from a person claiming to be the murderer, a self-confessed serial killer who stated that Miss Hummert had been his lover, that she had wanted to break off the affair, and as a result, he had killed her, making her his fifth murder victim. Well, already have a fifth victim. At this point, the Pennsylvania State Police Criminal Investigation Assessment Unit decided they need expert advice and retained Robert Leonard Associates to perform a forensic linguistic analysis of the questionnaire documents, the stalker letter, and then the serial killer letter. So there's like two data to examine by Robert. It's a stalker letter, the one that Mr. Hummert mentioned before, that it's threatening his wife, and then the serial killer letter that appeared or come after Mr. Hummert charge of murder. The serial killer letter appeared to be a post-offense manipulation of investigation communication, or POMIC. A POMIC is an after-the-fact red herring communication, typically intended to divert suspicion from a prime suspect to some other real or fictional person. So it's like a distraction of the investigation. So the prime suspect is no longer gets suspect or no longer gets suspicion. Commonly, a POMIC combines this information with specific information that is not publicly known but will be known to the perpetrator. Is it right? I think This was also the case here. The serial killer later provided details about where the victim was murdered and how she was dragged from her house to her car. Those explained the presence of a small piece of driveway gravel in the skin of her lower back, gravel that was shown to originate from the Hummert driveway. Yet at the same time, the latter falsely claimed that the strangulation instrument was a white nylon rope instead of the red dog list the police had retrieved from the Hummert residence. So it's like different tools that used to strangle that used to strangle the Miss Hummert. There were obvious differences between the questionnaire documents such as length, formality, and grammar. The Starker letter was lengthy, type-written, and used complex syntax. The serial killer letter was short, handwritten, and almost exclusively composed of simple mean clause. It contains several grammatical mistakes, later judged to be attempted obfuscations, camouflaging language characteristic, but the letters also share features such as well-executed complex narrative patterns and, importantly, an unusual rhetorical device, repeating the same verb in two consecutive sentences and changing the context of express irony to express irony and cruel humor. The stalker letter stated that writer had slept with Miss Hummert and referring humor of her further sexual proclivities. So this what the stalker letter says. I would have loved to found out. A couple of days later, she was made sure my fiancé found out. She dumped me and then had an abortion. And in the serial killer letter, it says, I killed Charlene Hummert, not her husband. We had an affair of the past 9 months. For the past 9 months, she wanted to break it off, so I broke her neck. Wow. The linguist termed this device ironic repetition. Eventually, this analysis contributed to obtaining a search warrant for Mr. Hummert's computer and office, a search that produced a quantity of work related to emails and other documents written by him. Detailed analysis revealed an unusual but consistent patterns of contraction that link the questionnaire and known documents. That link the Starker letter and the serial killer letter. In both sets of documents, positive verbs were never contracted. For example, like I am never contracted to am, while negative verb varied between occurring and contracted and non-contracted version. Example like both do not and don't appear. Corpus linguistic search of similar word strings confirmed that this pattern was highly unusual. Thus, the superior hypothesis was that the linguistic patterns in the questionnaire documents were best explained as being instances of the linguistic patterns in the known documents, known to have been written by the chief suspect, Brian Hummert. Several other forensic experts also testified that, and Mr. Hummert was convicted, yes, as a suspect. So, so that's the case that I review in this article. So that's all from me for today. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think maybe see you next time maybe.